Hello everyone, this is NS Alters, and today I'll be showing you how I painted this Burning Tree Emissary border extension altar. So as always, starting off with a neutral gray for the background, and you'll see how I'm kind of pulling the gray over the frame of the card and feathering it into the actual original art. This just sort of helps transition not just the colors, but also the texture of the paint versus the texture of the original card. If you're too straight up on the line and you don't really kind of blend into the art nicely, you will notice a texture difference simply due to the thickness of the paint that's applied to the card. Now, of course, this can be diminished by watering down your paints and painting really thin, but on cards, sometimes, no matter how thin your paints are, as you apply layer after layer, it does change the texture a little bit, and that can be noticed through a sleeve in some extreme scenarios. But feathering helps blend the effect. So for the background there in the sky, I did that first, and I'm using Liquitex Acrylic's paints here for the most part, and I find that compared to other brands, Liquitex really blends nicely. They don't have as much coverage as other brands, but you do get a really nice mix of colors with them. And that's really important here when I'm working on the building in the background, because there's actually a lot of complexity in the colors. Lots of grays, browns, yellows, greens, and they all kind of come together to create this overall natural stone feeling. So using that technique of blending really allows the color matching to come through, and you get a lot of texture and difference there. You can see with how I'm also kind of interpreting how the building would expand at the top of the card. I'm reusing elements from the actual art, sort of mirroring them up above so that you get a nice continuity. Now with the feathers here, I'm blocking them in very generically without any much detail. Same here with the red. You'll actually see that I scrape away this first red feather quite a bit there. And I'm really doing this just to try to get an idea of what I want to do. And then you'll see that I come back here with my pick and I'm scratching away the edges to get those kind of split ends of the feather. And then I'm also coming in with white actually, and sort of picking out the edges and coming back in with my darker colors to refine the sharpness of the edges. And all three steps together, you can get a lot of really fine detail without having to use an incredibly sharp brush, although my 5.0 is still relatively sharp. Now the feathers, as I forgot to put down a base layer, I just had to do a few extra layers with red paint to make sure that the frame behind them wasn't showing through. Next up, we're going to work on the trees. So the trees have a nice little gradient to them. With the light coming behind the trees, you get a bit of a halo, so the brighter colors around the edges, and then the core of the tree and the branches in the middle darken it. So I'll go back to them and put those in later. Color matching on the wall behind the Emissary was a little difficult as well, so you see me blending that out a lot, and I'll scrape it away to look at the original background paint color and then paint over and blend more. And then closer to the end, I add a lot more texture so that it really looks like the original wall did. That's me just blocking out some of the texture that I want to use and then blending it away. So it's a repetitive process, but as long as you use thin paints and go in very thin layers, you're not really going to have any issues working over yourself like that. So there I am darkening the trees, adding in the stumps in the background, and there's a little patch of grass right below them that I just put over with a thin green line. And then there's the sidewalk behind the passerby. So just kind of color matching there. I wasn't worrying too much about the details there, because I actually end up just darkening the whole bottom half of the card for a nice little clean finished look. Adding in his scarf blowing in the wind, a little highlight with a background lighting. And just more blending and a little bit of texturing there. I came back just to add some details to her hair. Before it was mostly just white that I was adding, but now I'm coming in with a blue and adding in those little folds in her hair. Now for the very background of the sky, you can actually see that there's buildings far off in the distance. So what I did is I painted the sky a near white, and then I took a much stronger white to paint the outlines of buildings, which gives the illusion that I was painting the buildings themselves, and then blending out that white. So just with contrast alone, you're kind of getting the implication that there's something behind her. And then just darkening the bottom of the frame and blending it out. The last step is I decided to make a watered down wash of a yellowish green, and you can see I'm putting it over the entire building, and that kind of just pulls it all together, makes it the same color. The last step, I'm just carefully scraping away the edges where I overpainted on the frame. Then we sign the initials, and we're done. And there it is, one Burning Tree Emissary, ready to be played into 3 more Burning Tree Emissaries. If you've liked this video, please consider subscribing, or if you'd like to see me paint a specific card, please leave a comment down below. Thanks for watching, and have a good day.